Welcome to Tri-Cities Mixtape. This is Porch Cat, and we are going to listen to Elevators.
I've been dreaming about elevators. I hold on tight as it comes crashing down. Reading dream meanings, I'm being humbled at light speed. I've been thinking about all the bad things. I've been thinking till it makes me ill. My heart keeps beating, but it's going at light speed. Take away the keys to my body. Drive me home, but don't make it there. I've been dreaming about getting younger, watching in horror as my teeth fall out, writing my poems about the contents of my heart. And if you're trying to get better, do better like your life depends on it. Practice makes progress, the flowers growing in your heart. Take away the keys to my body. Drive me home, but don't make it there. Sorry for the ways that I hurt you. Tried to push you away by hurting myself too. Hurting myself too. Hurt myself too.
This is Porch Cat, and coming up next is Vampire. Thanks for tuning in to Tri-Cities Mixtape.
I
Welcome to the Tri-Cities Mixtape. This is Miguel Ortiz. Today we have Porch Cat in the studios, and welcome Chan from Porch Cat.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So we have a bit of history. I had a band, acoustic alt rock band, up in Bellingham a few years ago, and we paired up for a bunch of shows. So we got to hang out a lot. But won't you tell me how Porch Cat started? And also, tell me where the name came from.
Well, the name isn't very exciting. I just love cats.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've always been obsessed with cats since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of seemed like a natural name to come upon. As far as how we started, I started out maybe 2011, just writing songs and putting them out on Bandcamp. This was in Bellingham, so I had my very first show at the Bellingham Flea Market, if you remember that, when it existed.
Okay, yeah.
And that's also where I happened to buy my first musical saw. It wasn't musical, but it was just a saw. Yeah. But it worked. Music was always something that I was really interested in. I started writing songs in middle school, I think. And all throughout high school, I wrote songs. I got distracted because of theater. So I started back up my second year of college, I think. And
were you a writer first, or did you learn an instrument?
I wrote poetry first.
Nice.
So I did that. I started learning guitar at age 12.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was kind of around the same time. Everything kind of came together. And then some of my first performances outside of Bellingham were at my middle school talent show and high school talent shows and things like that. So
at that time, who were you just performing?
I was
as your government name, or was Porch Cat a thing already?
It was not Porch Cat yet. Yeah. It was just my name. Yeah. I think there was one instance of documentation about this on MySpace. I had a MySpace page, and that's where I shared my music and stuff. Yeah. Sadly, it's all gone.
Right. Yeah.
That's where I started posting music. I also performed for the morning announcements in middle school.
Okay.
So I would always have my guitar with me, and my art teacher was like, do a song on the morning announcements. And I was like, okay, yeah, that would be cool. So I started that.
Were you just playing a cover or one of your own songs, or did they have you just sing the announcements?
I was just singing a original song, I think. Nice. So yeah, I don't even remember the song.
Were you a huge rock star after, and all the girls going crazy for you in the hallway?
I wish, but no. I think a lot of kids that age are kind of ooh, that's a little embarrassing. So
why would you do that?
Yeah. That's really where I started feeling supported by other people about my music. And even relatively recently, somebody reached out to me anonymously. I don't know who they were. But they were like, I loved seeing you on the Carmichael Middle School announcements.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe there's someone from middle school, still following my music.
Yeah, no shit.
It was really cool. Very cute.
When did music become something that you weren't just doing in your room or showing your friends, that you're like, hey, this is something not only that I want to do, but that you felt was your self-expression, your form of self-expression?
Yeah, I think ever since I took guitar lessons for two sessions or something.
You're already ahead of most of us then.
Yeah, and I was like, I know chords now, so I'm just gonna start writing my own songs.
Yes. I was literally the same way. As soon as I learned anything on guitar, I would take it and apply it, and then once I exhausted that, I'd come back and learn something else.
Yeah, exactly. Around that time was really when I was like, this is something that I'm proud of, and I didn't really, I guess I would say in high school is when I started being like, this is what I want to put out. I want to perform stuff. We had a mini cafe night at Hanford.
Okay, you went to Hanford High School?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. My son goes.
Nice. It's a good school. I performed there at the little coffee shop pop-up coffee shop sort of thing that they had.
cool.
And that was my first show.
Yeah.
When I got to college, I spent like 2 years not touching a guitar, not doing anything really, and in a not great relationship at the time. And so I felt very unsupported during that time. And I was just like trying to find things to hold on to that helped me feel better. And that was songwriting. And after that breakup happened, I spent a lot of time writing songs and kind of like reclaiming that for
Breakups
myself.
are great for
Yeah.
songwriting.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the very beginning of the relationship and the end are the most fruitful times.
Yeah,
to write
absolutely.
songs.
That is pretty much how it happened. When I was in college, I was like shy about performing anywhere. I was still looking at it as something that was just like for me privately. And then I found folk punk and I found Pat the Bunny, and there's tons of videos of him just like playing a guitar and screaming his head off. And I was like, hey, if this guy can write these songs and perform them and like make a difference in somebody's life, create a good experience for people, I could probably do that too. It made it feel really accessible. And I think that was really important for me to start writing songs and putting them on the internet. And
Yeah, it's almost like you're given permission when you see somebody else being vulnerable or doing something that you're scared of. You're like, oh, we can do it. Especially when it's just one dude and a guitar. You're like, that seems easy.
yeah, exactly.
I could do that.
That's where I really got started performing.
What informed or inspired the first writing you did? And also, I've noticed you do write a lot of things that are autobiographical. I'm gonna assume that's always been the case. So just tell me what informed your writing in the beginning into how it's grown to now.
That's actually a good question. I started writing just like sad emo songs and like sad poetry. It was during my Chemical Romance phase, which has come back around, but we'll talk about it.
I never got that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was writing a lot of like sad emo poetry that was like about how I felt so dark inside and things like that. Then in high school, I started getting into like the beat poets. So like Charles Bukowski.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I thought maybe that was a band called the Beat Poet.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, they're so cool. They know all these bands I don't know.
Yeah, no. just the poets and writers from like the beat era. I don't have to write like these fluffy, flowery poems if I don't want to. I can just write whatever I feel or whatever I'm observing. So that's, I think, where I started writing. This is Porch Cat, and we are listening to Time of Year. Thank you for tuning in to Tri-Cities.Mixtape.
It's that time of year when all I wanna do is die. I have such complicated feelings, they make me wanna cry. It's too much. Sometimes I can't even sing when I'm alone. My lungs feel too tired. My voice is not my own. I'll cut my hair each time I feel scared, and I start feeling unprepared to move on. I'll cut my hair and face when I feel clean. I'll forget what old songs mean and move on. Should've known things won't get better if we don't change the way we act. We'll be getting more off track. Old man Winter's got his hands still on my throat. Thought I'd make it out alive, but look at all the songs I wrote about dying. I'll cut my hair each time I feel scared, and I start feeling unprepared to move on. I'll cut my hair and face I feel clean. I'll forget what old songs mean and move on.
Hi, I am Chan from Porch Cat. This next song is called Nothing.
she's strong. Hold on to my conscience when I feel wrong. Holding my breath. Holding my breath. I want to be nothing. Trusted you. If I start from dirt, could I become new? Vulnerable and stubborn. Vulnerable and stubborn. I want to be nothing. Maybe be your boy, tell the truth. Bury me tonight under the full moon. Holding my breath. Holding my breath. I want to be nothing. Nothing. I'll tie my heart to the fence he built. Bleed in the garden. I'll lay in the dirt to regrow myself. Bleed in the garden. I'll tie my heart to the fence he built. Bleed in the garden. I'll lay in the dirt to grow myself. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the garden I will learn to grow. 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 In the garden I will learn to grow.
So it was never a scary thing for you to be vulnerable in your lyrics, or were you one of those like, oh, they won't know that I'm really singing about myself, or did it matter?
It didn't really matter to me. I just felt like I had an early song that I wrote that was literally just telling myself to like write what I know about.
Okay.
So people say that all the time, like write what you know, and I was like, well, who would I know better than myself?
Right.
And even if I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing, it was a learning process, so it allowed me to get closer contact with myself, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Side note, from doing these podcasts and stuff, I have to like edit conversations I have.
Yeah.
And I have like noticed things about myself. Also, I've been doing a lot of therapy in the last few years, so I'm like super self-aware.
Yeah.
So like hearing how people respond to me, and I can like hear myself in the conversations being desperate for them to make them laugh or to find some sort of connection, and it is kind of interesting. I'm totally gonna cut all this out. But like between me and my therapist, I've gotten a lot of good stuff to where I was like, hey, I noticed I do this, and I'm always looking for that. So it is a nice mirror to hold up to. You do get to, you know, see yourself in your art and in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I started in like the creative field as a visual artist.
Oh, okay.
Like I was always drawing when I was a kid, and then I was put into like advanced art classes in high school and things like that.
Oh,
So,
but by the way, let's shout out, you have an art page too?
Yeah.
At porchcat.art, or is that what it is?
Yes.
On Instagram? Awesome.
kind of relating back to like holding a mirror up to yourself. There were a few projects that I did in high school that were self-portraits. I was also really into photography, so I did a lot of photography self-portraits as well. So I think just like exploring myself as a person with thoughts and feelings has been really helpful in a lot of ways, not just like for writing songs, but but it definitely helps, I think, to be able to look at myself and be like, there's something new that I learned from this painting, or something new I learned from this song.
No, yeah. It seems nowadays nobody actually writes lyrics anymore, but I always have been. But I'd always notice, like, I would read over my lyrics and then I'd be like, wait, I really do feel these things that I'm saying. And I didn't realize it until I actually read it back. And I'm like, wait, this is how I feel. I thought I was just, stream of conscious right into the beat or whatever. But yeah, it was very revealing. Almost where it was almost like, clutching my notebook to me. Oh, nobody can see this.
Yeah.
This is too real. These are my real thoughts. And But yeah, I mean, I've let go of that over the years.
Yeah, for sure.
Being a visual artist and loving music, was there a lot of artists in your family or in your home?
Not really when I was a kid. But now I have cousins who are like in local bands and things like that. It is something that we could like connect over. But it wasn't, I never had like a parent or anyone who was just like singing or making art. It was, I think I have this memory of me with my mom, and she like learned how to do flower paintings with your thumbs or like with her fingers. So she was teaching me. I was a little kid. I was like 4 or something. That's like one of my earliest memories of making art. And it's funny because my mom is always like, oh, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at making art. I want to learn how to do this, but I don't know how. And I'm like, well, you were the one who got me started in it. And like, you're the one who taught me how to express myself in that way. And I think it's something that I want her to be able to see in herself.
Yeah, I could speak from a parent's perspective that sometimes we were just doing whatever we can to keep kids busy. That it wasn't like, oh, well, we're gonna encourage this or encourage that, or just like, I need you to be busy. And, we don't have cable, so finger bait.
Yeah, exactly.
I love to hear that.
Oh, well, I did have, my dad is very into music. He doesn't like sing or play an instrument or anything.
Right.
But he does love music a lot and loves like music trivia. So sometimes, or every time that I talk to him, he'll be like, who is blah, blah, blah? Or who is this?
Okay, that actually is along the lines of what I was going to ask next. What artists or inspirations did you inherit from your folks versus when you're like, okay, you were seeking out music for you when you first went to somewhere to buy a CD for yourself or whatever. So let's start with anything that informed your musical palette from your parents.
Yeah, the Beach Boys.
Okay, nice.
The Beach Boys is very important to me. My dad is from California.
Oh, okay.
So he was always playing Beach Boys songs for me when I was a baby. I also remember being in like elementary school. I was in choir and we did a performance of like all Beach Boys songs.
Nice.
And that was just like a really significant moment, I think, for me. And like I love to layer harmonies like as much as I can in my recordings.
Yeah, that's a big Beach Boys influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
From my mom, she's very eclectic as far as what kind of music she likes. It's kind of hard to narrow down. There's like, you know, she likes like Mexican music, and she likes like Pink Floyd, and it's just like there's so many different things that she's into that she likes to share, and she loves jazz and things like that, and that jazz became really influential for me when I was in high school. I think I listened to a lot of it. I was in jazz choir at one point, and I think that came from my mom, just like listening to different things and exploring music in a way that wasn't like, I don't know, with my dad, it's almost like a competition to like know all of the bands and who the members are and things like that. And with my mom, it's just kind of like, oh, I like this sound, it makes me happy. Or, oh, I love this person's voice. And I think something that I hold dear is like people with unique voices.
Oh, yeah.
And the first one that comes to my mind is someone who my mom really liked, which was Macy Gray.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, her voice is so cool. So my mom loves just like unique voices and things like that. So that was influential for me.
So what was the first music that you sought out that you took ownership of? You're like, this isn't my parents' music. This isn't my older sister's music. This is mine.
Yeah.
What was that?
I'm a huge anime nerd.
Okay.
So I think the first like CD that I sought out for myself was a Sailor Moon CD.
Yes.
And I was just like, I love these songs. They're all bops. And it's kind of funny because in high school, I got really into the Beatles. And that was kind of like with my dad, we would talk about the Beatles and listen to them and stuff. But my first introduction to the Beatles was that Sailor Moon CD. They had a version of I Want to Hold Your Hand on there.
Oh, really?
And I was just like, I love this song. I don't know who it's by, but yeah, so that was that and the Pokemon CD. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, it totally kind of reveals your place in time in history.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when did you want Porch Cat to be not just your stage name, but be something that you took out of the house or off the porch, so to speak?
I would say that like it really happened in college, I think, and I realized that I could have a band. Like when I was younger, that was never like an option for me, you know?
Right.
I didn't have a girls' rock camp to go to, so I didn't feel empowered to start a band. I was just like, okay, this is just me by myself and a guitar. But when I realized that I could make music with other people, it really opened a lot of things up for me and for Porch Cat. It goes along with when I met Emily. I don't know, we work so well together.
Yeah, and you still currently work with Emily.
Yes.
Was Emily your first collaborator in Porch Cat?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. This is Porch Cat, and this song is Reclaim. Thank you for tuning in to Tri-Cities Mixtape.
I'm pulling out my hair, counting the days. I thought of how to die in half a million ways. I saw your pictures floating on my screen. I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream. When you lose your sense of self, become
So we've been doing this for like 10, 11 years now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
No, yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I've been paying attention to your band for not that long, and you've gone through so many phases in that time.
Yeah.
Now that you were saying 11 years, I'm like, wait, yeah, that's about shortly after that is when you guys came on my radar.
Yeah.
When you guys were full pop punk electro.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did Porch Cat start? Yeah, let's take it from where it started. Obviously you, and then you recruited Emily, and then by the time I saw you, you were a full on like power trio pop punk band.
Yeah. When we first started making music together, it was supposed to be like a cover band for like country and folk music.
Oh, okay.
It was actually through our mutual friend Jordan, who plays banjo. So he was like, hey, I know someone who sings really well and might be interested in this project. And that was me. And then we all met up at Jordan's apartment, and Emily was like an hour late because she was just like walking around from downtown Bellingham to an apartment complex. Yeah. And I was late too. So we just showed up and we were like, oh, sorry. I don't know, things worked so well musically between me and Emily that it was just like, it felt natural to be like, hey, let's bring some of this like folky stuff into Porch Cat, because my songs were very folk at that time.
Okay.
And that was really fun. At our like biggest, we were like a 4-piece folk band.
Oh, okay.
So we had like a fiddle, I played saw and guitar, Emily played guitar and bass, Jordan played banjo, and it was just a really fun way to like put music together. We did a cover of The Reason by Hoobastank.
Oh, yes.
It was actually, our friend in the...
Were you guys doing this, like, ironically? Or
yes.
Oh, okay.
our friend in the folk punk scene, Dan, he was like, I'm going to put together a compilation of, like, people's least favorite songs, but they're going to, like, make them sound better or whatever. So we did that, and that's still up on SoundCloud if you want to listen to it. It's really cool, actually. I listen to it sometimes. I'm like, hey, this is really good. And just doing that, I think, was like the gateway to doing Porch Cat songs.
Yeah.
So I kind of stole the band from Emily, and I was like, okay, you guys are all going to be my backing band from now on. I know it was your project, Emily, but it's mine now.
I do want to go back to the saw, just because I have questions like how do you know what note you're getting to, or is it all just,
It's, at this point for me, it's muscle memory.
Okay. So you know how to bend it or move it to get to C sharp if you need to or whatever?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I learned it by ear, so I wasn't ever like sitting at a piano and like plunking out notes.
Yeah.
But I imagine that people who play like slide guitar or people who play trombone probably have a similar experience.
Okay. Yeah.
Really is kind of complicated to explain.
Right.
When you have a saw, you bend it and then you tilt the very end of it so you have like an S shape.
Mm-hmm.
And with that S shape, you play on like the highest point of the S. Mm-hmm. So that's where your bow would hit the saw, is where it's at its highest.
Okay.
And that moves depending on how far you bend the saw.
Okay.
So it's not always the same spot. The sweet spot is all along the saw. It just it depends on like where you're holding it, where the bends are.
Yeah.
And it did take a while to like figure out how to make it work, but I recently inherited some saws from a random woman on Facebook. Okay. Her mother was a saw player.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, I'm looking for someone to take these saws. They've been on display for like 10 years. My mother passed away. I don't intend to use them.
Right.
And she was just like, I want them to go to somebody who's going to play them. So she shipped me, I think, like 6 saws.
Oh, wow.
And so now I have a collection.
So are the different, is it like different guitars or different instruments?
It is.
Different sizes or whatever,
Yeah.
you'll get different sounds
Yes.
or vibes out of them?
Exactly. So she sent me a really small saw, and it's like a soprano saw, if you want
Okay.
to think about it that way.
Yes.
My saw is the one that I learned on mostly, and the one that I play most consistently is, I'd say, like a tenor saw.
Okay.
So it has like 3 octaves worth of notes.
Okay, nice.
The smaller the saw, the less octaves there are, the less notes there are. And I've noticed from playing recently, I've been playing around with the saws I inherited, and I can tell that there's a difference just because of where the notes land on the saw is different if you're playing a different size saw.
Yeah.
So I'm very used to my long one, and all of the ones that she sent me are a little bit smaller or much smaller. But yeah, at this point it's muscle memory, but I do have to like learn how to use the different saws in different ways to make it sound good.
No, I know you maybe think that was just the dorkiest tangent ever, but
No.
I love it.
No,
and
no.
I'm here for stuff like that. And also, I always just did wonder,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I know they aren't like real saws, like they aren't like serrated or have the teeth on them. Do
They do.
Oh, shit.
So the one that I usually play is a musical saw meant for music. And it is not sharp enough to like cut anything, but it does have the teeth on it. And so I've like scratched myself and stuff on it
Yeah.
before. I'm just like, oops. It's not super sharp or anything. The saws that I got from that woman, they're real saws, so
Oh, wow.
they are sharper than my usual saw.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of a little rusty, and that kind of dulls the sharpness a bit.
Last saw question. Is the bow just like a regular fiddle bow or cello bow or whatever?
I use a cello bow.
Okay.
Some people use just like a fishing wire sort of thing
Oh, okay.
as a makeshift bow, but I use a cello bow. I tried the violin bow and it was too light for me. So I went with the cello and it was really nice. It's a little longer, so sometimes I hit things with it by accident. But it gives me a little bit more of like a resistance to it, which I like to be able to feel what I'm doing.
Welcome back to the Musical Saw podcast with Porch Cat. But yeah, that was a hell of a tangent, and I thank you for indulging me on all my stupid saw questions.
I love talking about the saw,
Yeah.
honestly.
So I think it was around 2015, 2016, I started seeing Porch Cat pop up all over Bellingham, all over the place. Again, when you guys were a power trio, pop punk thing with
Nettle.
Molly at the time,
Yes.
Nettle now. But let's back up. And how did Porch Cat go from you stealing Emily's
Folk band.
to what the band that ultimately we kind of, met up as and started playing?
Yeah. I think for the most part, it was just that the type of songs I was writing, the genre of the songs I was writing, more leaning towards like a pop punk sort of vibe. So like the structure of the songs became more succinct instead of like having tons of verses or having tons of instrumental breaks for fiddles or whatever.
Oh, right.
So
Did you have to speed up your songs when you went full pop punk?
In the version with Nettle, we didn't speed up that much, and it was good. I feel like it was that was my first time with like an electric band.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have like friends be a part of it. And Emily doesn't play drums super fast like our last drummer that we worked with. So it wasn't a huge change. It was kind of just like, what songs can we adapt to like this sound? and what songs don't make sense.
I guess along that lines, do you ever write a song and you're like, oh, this isn't a Porch Cat song, I'm just gonna put this on the back burner for whatever else, or I'll just play it myself?
Yeah.
Are you ever gonna release like a Porch Cat singer-songwriter set or album, or I guess songs that, again, maybe it wouldn't even be under the umbrella of Porch Cat, but if these songs that don't fit that context, do you have plans for that to be like a side project or a B-sides thing, or they'll just be your cute little songs that you hold on to and nobody gets to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few songs like that I'm just like, this song is for me. A lot of times they're just like songs where I'm processing emotions or things that have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nobody really needs to hear this, but it was good for me.
Yeah, for sure. So music is like therapy to you?
It is, yeah.
I hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's very much something that I do to process things. And it's really interesting to go back to like older songs and be like, oh, I was writing this song about this thing that happened, but now it means something different to me.
Right.
And that's always fun to like go back and see how things have changed, and
you can disassociate from the songs
in
a healthy way, that you're not reliving the trauma that informed that song.
Yeah, exactly.
And it can just be a song.
Yeah, definitely. There was a time where I was like, Porch Cat has to be like within these constraints.
Oh, right.
But now I'm just like, if the song is a Porch Cat song, that's just what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So like our upcoming album has like a few folk songs on it, but the rest are like electric, like indie rock, some pop punk stuff in there as well. So I don't mind being eclectic as far as like what we perform, and as a duo it makes it easier to just be like, okay, let's do this folk song now, and then our next song is going to be a pop punk like anthem or something. Yeah,
I've always wrestled with wanting to have like a 1 or 2 person band, but then also wanting a full band for the full sound, and, but also, the convenience of just, 2 people in a car going city to city. And, I've always had that romanticized idea of musicianship and also of performing with a partner. And my wife actually does play piano.
Oh, wow.
But she's like, no. She's like, I love you. I spend a lot of time with you. I don't want music to be a whole nother. Like, we're fine. And also, she's classically trained. She doesn't like play for fun. I think she could play anything you put in front of her. But like, if you're like, hey, play a C minor, or hey, jam with me, she's like, I can't.
Yeah.
But she's so amazing if you put like, and like I could never achieve what she does with my fingers, and but she anyway, I'm just going off on a tangent. But the idea, because I guess we didn't mention that you and Emily have been partners for a while.
Yeah.
And again, I've always loved the romanticized idea of a couple, living together, making music together, living their dreams together.
Yeah.
I know a lot of these things they're not always the most healthiest, or there's a lot of Ike and Tina out there, and I was gonna say Johnny and June as like a good thing, but Johnny Cash cheated on her a lot too.
Yeah.
But they are more of like the picture perfect, the rock and roll couple, the couple that did it,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something really special about working with someone that you're partnered with. Sometimes it can feel a little like overwhelming, I think.
Right. Because how do you separate, like, hey, I'm not saying I don't love you, but I don't love what you're doing on, that bridge right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of compromise, and you have to be able to like say no to one another, but also be like supportive of what we're trying to achieve.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of like a magical thing to me to be able to make music with my partner. And I think that was always very special to me to be able to do that. And we don't really write songs together, but she does do like arranging and stuff with me. And it's just fun to like work together. It almost feels like we're making a sculpture together or something. So just like both of us sticking our hands in the clay and
Like the movie Ghost.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think being in a partnership with someone that you're also making music with is really, it can be really hard, especially if like there are songs that I've written that I'm like, sorry, Emily, the song's about you.
No. Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard for her also to like hear songs about my like past relationships or
Right.
past abuse or things like that.
Right.
So we do kind of have to like compromise on things and be like, is this song worth like repeating over and over?
My first band was a lesbian garage rock band out of Sunnyside, and the drummer and singer they're married now, but they were a couple at the time. And one of my favorite songs was one that the singer wrote about an ex, and we reformed somewhat recently, or tried to. But yeah, the awkwardness of that song came up, and there's like, we're not gonna play that one anymore. And I'm like, but I respect. I don't want to open up that wound or whatever just for the sake of rock and roll. But
there's
I get it.
There's one song called "The One" that we performed in our last like power trio format, and it's always like other people's favorite songs, but I'm like, this song makes me sad.
Yeah.
But it is very cathartic, and I think I don't necessarily know if I'll like bring that song back to performances.
Right.
But it was the right fit at that time when we were performing it a lot, and I think it helped both of us like process things that we were going through, because I wrote it during a very difficult time. And I don't know, like Emily had to be able to be like, hey, this is kind of like hard to cope with. It's kind of hard to like separate myself from the song. But I think doing that kind of allowed us to like move past that, those experiences that are written in there.
Must be a medical mystery, even though it's hard to see. I know it's scary that we don't know just what these tests show. You've got a rare disease of the tissues and disrupted sleep. Chronic pain, it fills your spine. Live with it, you're not dying. So you try to hold on, even though it's your job to schedule your life away. Appointments every day. Sometimes it's hard to eat. When I tell jokes, I get weak. I crack my knuckles loud. My body echoes the sound. You know I'm sick as fuck. Feel like I got hit by a truck, but it's just from waking up after 14 hours of sleep. So you try to hold on, even though it's your job to schedule your life away. Appointments every day. So you try to hold on, even though it's your job to get through the symptoms here. Try to do all the things you fear you won't do in a year.
I usually have some co-hosts, but they both have real lives and real jobs, so they couldn't be here today. But our co-host, Carly V, she is familiar with your band, and she actually texted me some questions. She says, the first time I saw Porch Cat, I heard them perform a song about having a chronic illness that really spoke to me. What are their experiences as performers with a chronic illness? And I'm assuming that's maybe be narcolepsy?
Yeah.
Which was one of the first songs that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
Really, I gravitated to your songwriting, your catchiness. I'm like, okay. And then after a while, I'm like, oh, this is some of the stuff that's happening in this song.
Yeah.
Because it sounds, at first it's just a song and you're moving and you're whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When I actually listen to the lyrics, I'm like, oh, homie's going through some stuff.
Yeah.
So what are your experiences performers with a chronic illness?
Both Emily and I have chronic illnesses, and it's a difficult thing to balance with life, so a lot of times I feel like all I can really do is write about it, because it's something that's just happening. It's not something I can control. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of songs about narcolepsy, aside from that song, Narcolepsy.
Yeah.
Like the song Vampire is about chronic illness, and is kind of about feeling trapped, I guess. I'm feeling like I'm not good for having these conditions that stop me from being able to do certain things or have a real job or things like that. That makes it easier to process those things even as they continue to happen in my life. And I think the song that she was talking about is probably Medical Mystery.
Oh yeah.
And that song came after I started having symptoms of chronic illness when I was a kid, really. And I finally got diagnosed when I was 22, I think. 22 or 23. I got multiple diagnoses in a row. So I have multiple conditions, and it can be really hard to make it work with the lifestyle of being a musician.
Yeah.
There's times where I just can't do a show even if I really want to. There are times where I'm just too tired physically and mentally to even touch a guitar.
Right. Is that where you're like, Emily, take it all?
Yeah,
you
do it. And yeah, it's changed the way that we've performed in different ways, because right now the way that we're performing is with Emily on guitar, backing vocals, and then I'm just playing saw and singing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just the different changes that we've had to make to accommodate ourselves.
Right.
Is interesting. It's interesting to see it change, and there are times where I'm I really miss playing guitar, and I really miss being in a punk band. But at the same time, what we're doing now is more feasible for both of us.
Right.
It affects my whole life. It affects music. It affects being able to tour and travel. And there's also just been instances of experiencing ableism at events and things like that.
Oh yeah. Not many stages have I seen have ramps.
Yeah.
Or some don't
is
even
very true.
have real stairs.
I know. Yeah. That can be a challenge, especially the way that my conditions work usually is that there's flare-ups and then there's times where everything is easier. But you've seen me perform in a wheelchair probably.
Yeah. And I've seen you stand up and rock the fuck out.
Yeah, exactly.
But has anybody ever been like, hey, the last show you were jumping off the wall, why are you sitting down now? Was there ever anything like that?
I've never really experienced that. I think one of the more difficult things that I had to deal with is I was in a chair for a Portland show, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the restroom. I get to the restroom. It's not accessible at all.
No.
So I was like, okay, I guess I have to leave my chair in the hallway so that I can use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't fit in there. And that was really frustrating. It's frustrating when venues say that they're accessible and they're not.
Yeah. Or I always wonder what the technical minimum that people need to say it's accessible.
Yeah.
I don't get it sometimes.
A lot of people think it's just can you get in through any of the doors? And if they have a doorway that's accessible, they'll be like, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there's you have to like deal with going to the bathroom. You have to be able to like order a drink at the bar or things like that.
All right, to follow up on that, Carly also asked, do you have any advice for aspiring musicians that are dealing with chronic illnesses?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice would be to give yourself grace and be accepting of the symptoms that you have, and be willing to like accommodate yourself. Because I think that's something that people with chronic illnesses try to like hide, is the need to be accommodated. And it can be hard to do that for yourself and be like, okay, maybe I can't play guitar at every show.
Right.
Maybe I need to sit down when I'm singing, or, maybe I need to practice less, and that's just the reality of it.
Right. So you have to save it for when you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I think just being able to give yourself grace and being able to be like, I'm accommodating myself for the sake of me. It's not for other people. It's for you and your needs. And I think that's really important for people with chronic illness to hear, is that their needs are important and they shouldn't be tucked away, even if other people want to do that.
Carly also says, through their music and presence as a band, it's clear activism is important to Porch Cat. Can you speak to being an art-based activist in a more conservative rural area, and your motivations?
Yeah, I don't know. In places like Bellingham or Seattle, it feels easy to just be like, I don't know, be an activist for things that people like to ignore. I think that social justice is important as an artist, but I also don't think that it needs to be like everything that you do.
Right.
Because it can be really exhausting to feel like you're constantly on activist mode.
and even when you are in that mode, there are other people who are on the same side of you who will get on you for not doing enough or not advocating in the right way. And that can be very, can hinder a lot of people from wanting to speak out or be, vocal about those things.
Yeah, and I think I've experienced that myself too.
It's like, you're not punk enough.
Whatever. You're not saying the right things, or
you actually used ableist language in your anti-ableist rant. Or whatever. And I'm being more mindful of that too. I mean, just realizing I would use a lot of I used to say I have a schizophrenic music taste, just to be like, oh, I like everything. But for one, again, I really don't know anything about schizophrenia, and it is something people really deal with. And also, there are better ways to describe my eclectic music taste than diminishing somebody's medical issue.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people do that a lot too, where they'll be like, oh, I was so manic, I got a haircut. And it's like, do you know what you're saying right now? But I think that it's really important to just try and be vocal about things that you're passionate about.
Right.
And I used to be a much more outspoken activist sort of person, especially when I was living in Portland. I think it was just the
climate.
Yeah, exactly. And now living in the Tri-Cities again, I was kind of scared because I was like, are people going to like what I have to say? Are people going to connect to it? Am I going to get kicked out of a bar or something for saying something? And I've been very pleasantly surprised that people are supportive, and people will come up to me and be like, I heard you talk about this or this in your song, and that was important for me to hear. So I think personally right now, as far as activism, I really want to connect with people on an individual level. And hearing someone be like, I think about this differently now because I heard this in your song, or you said this on stage. I think that is a good motivating factor for me. But yeah, it can be weird here in the Tri-Cities in this conservative area. But I almost always talk about it because you've heard our song Hometown. And that's about living here in the Tri-Cities as a queer kid growing up, and then going to Bellingham and going to college, and then just learning about life, learning about social justice. And I think that being able to do that was really helpful for me. So I don't know. I try to be brave when I perform here, and especially like if I sing that song, I'll say this song is about growing up here, growing up queer.
Yeah.
And I haven't run into anyone who's like, you said this and I didn't like that. So it's good. I think the right people are hearing the things that I have to say.
Right.
And I don't necessarily want to be like a confrontational person. I don't do good with conflict.
Right.
But I do feel like there's a responsibility to be like, this is my story and this is how it translates. I like to say that the personal is political.
Right.
And so that's kind of the angle that I go at it from. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's just being able to express my own experiences and let others know that they're not alone, and know that they can do things that make differences. So I don't know. I like supporting organizations and like doing events for like fundraisers and things like that.
Right.
More than just like telling people what I think.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to control what other people think, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like brainwash anyone, but I do like being able to make people think about things in a different way. And I think that has happened while we've been living here in the Tri-Cities.
I do want to thank you for this. Has been great, and I've been a fan of yours. And I think almost every time I see you in person, I tell you how much of a Chan and a Porch Cat fan I am.
Thank you.
Because I mean, when we were bubbling up on the scene, our bands at the same time, and I mean, I was doing acoustic alt pop, and you were doing pop punk, this and that. But for some reason, we played like a bunch of shows together, and we were like buddy bands, and it worked. There were some where we opened for y'all, or you guys opened for us, and it never felt out of place because we both brought good energy and had an earnestness and an emotionality to our music. But yeah, that was to where it was almost like, who do we need? Just call Porch Cat. Porch Cat. Who do we? Because
you just need like the bat signal in the
sky. Yeah, exactly.
Just
the
a cat
signal. Right, but what's I know you said you and Emily are currently recording the next project.
Yes.
But first off, where can people find your music? It's just Porch Cat on Spotify and all the streamers.
Yep.
And on your ats for social media.
Everything is under porchcat.music.
Okay.
Unless you go to Bandcamp, it's just porchcat.bandcamp.com. But we're on like all streaming services.
And you have several projects out, right?
Yeah.
And are there any other bands named Porch Cat that you guys like get met? Because I know I've seen some people. I'll find like, wait, who did I have in here? I had Ava, but band from around here, and like one of their songs is just like some European woman singing, but it's on their Spotify top songs, and I'm like,
yeah, that actually did happen to me, kind of earlier on, and I managed to get it all sorted out with my distributor. At the time, I was using Root Note, I think. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But there's someone who makes like electronic like dance music or trance music or whatever. Who uses that name but without a space in between.
Oh, okay.
So there was that. I was just like, that person uses the name without the space, and they put something out like once every 2 years or something. So it didn't really bother me. Right. There was a band from Indiana, I think Indiana, and they were like, it's like a college band. And they were like, we're Porch Cat because we had the porch cat on the porch and we would feed it and stuff. And I was like, okay. I reached out to them and I was like, we have the same band name. Is there a way that you guys would be willing to like adjust that? Because it's getting kind of confusing. People would tag us instead of them.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because ours is the first one that pops up. And so they never responded, but they ended up doing like an interview with someone, like a local interview, and they were like, oh yeah, we changed our name from Porch Cat with a C to Porch Cat with a K, and it's because there's another band who's named Porch Cat, and we're gonna beat them, basically.
Okay.
We were like, are you really? You're a college band, you're probably gonna break up in like 4 years.
Yeah.
They did break up, so I was like,
Take that, Porch Cat with a K.
yeah. Beyond that, we haven't really had any issues that come up. So yeah, I think it's been good ever since like I got things separated from the electro dance guy and then
College kids.
the college kids. I just thought it was really funny because they were like, we're gonna be bigger than the other Porch Cat, and I'm like, we're not that big, but okay.
And also, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we do look forward to your upcoming projects.
Yes.
And I guess if you could talk to 15-year-old Chan or Porch Cat in its first year, what advice would you give?
I would say, this is what I always say, is if I was talking to my 15-year-old self, I would say, like, stop trying to date boys, for one thing.
Boys are gross.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, get a head start on that.
Yeah. I mean, I came out as bi when I was, like, 12. And just, like, getting to where I am now, like, I proudly identify as a lesbian and non-binary. And I think that if I had been able to embrace myself as a 15-year-old, I would have had a better experience in high school and in college.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have songs written about this. Like the song Coming Out is really about coming out at like age 12 or 13 and then going back into the closet for a few years.
Right.
And it's like, I wish that I could have been there to be like, hey, you don't have to go back in the closet. You can do whatever you want and you don't have to listen to anybody else. And I think that would be my message to my younger self, is to just be who I am and be proud of it and not let other people define it for me.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you again. Any other parting words or shout outs you'd like to give? Or
I would like to shout out Emily because she's been doing so much work on the new album.
Yeah.
She's playing drums, guitar,
she plays everything.
Bass. Yeah.
I tried to start a band with Emily back when we were in Bellingham too.
Yeah. So Emily is back on drums for this album, which is really cool.
Awesome, yeah. Also, we did have recruit Emily as a drummer for Crooked Neighbors for a handful of shows.
Yeah.
Which was also convenient because you guys Porch Cat was also playing those shows.
Yeah. It worked really well. Yeah. And I think that her musicality is really, like, people think of Porch Cat as just me sometimes. And I'm like, I want to give that shout out to Emily and be like, hey, she's doing a lot. And like, she's doing the bulk of the mixing and recording and the mastering, and it's
so even though Porch Cat was something that does predate your relationship with Emily, she has been a fundamental part in its growth and what it is now.
Yeah, especially on this album. I think it's our most collaborative album, and that's really exciting to me. So
I don't mean this to sound whatever, but are you letting her write lyrics, or is she helping with lyrics, or is lyrically Porch Cat still your voice?
Porch Cat, I think, to me, if a song is like about my personal experiences, it's a Porch Cat song.
Yeah.
So there are times where she'll suggest something and I'll be like, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to put that in the song. But it's definitely, I do most of the writing by myself at weird hours of the night. So
are you, I know, because I played a few shows with you, and back when you first wrote Bad Men, you said on stage that it was inspired by a Stranger Things episode.
Yeah.
Is that your typical writing process? Do you have any songs inspired by Friends or Big Bang Theory? No, I'm just joking, but obviously inspiration comes from everywhere. What is your write? Do you usually write to music, or is it an idea will come up and you take a note in your phone or write it down?
It's It really, it has changed a lot throughout my time writing. But usually I get like one line that will pop into my head, and sometimes it's already like a musical line, sometimes it's just words, but usually I start with like a melody and words together, and then I build off of that. But there are times, especially if I'm writing on bass, which is something I really enjoy doing, is freeing in a way. I don't have to deal with chords.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'm just like writing to like a bass line and singing with it. And I think a lot of times I am inspired by like shows that I've watched or things like that. As long as they connect to me and my like personal experiences of who I am. If it's a Porch Cat song, it's a Porch Cat song.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I could perform Bad Men like in the lineup that we have right now, acoustic.
Right.
Would be weird.
Oh, yeah.
We've tried it before.
It was a banger.
So I see that song as like one of my favorite moments of being in a punk band.
Yeah.
And
it was a powerful song. I just have, when we played the at the college.
Oh yeah. At Western?
Yeah, we played at Western, and I want to say the song was pretty new then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that performance of it is what I picture in my head when I think of that song. 'Cause you guys, it was new to you, and you guys were, again, I know I've said this, all due respect to Porch Cat and all its entities, but the version that I met you guys at, when you were the power trio, pop punk, and Bad Men Deserve to Die or whatever, that just like... that is the picture that I have of Porch Cat in that moment. And that was a great song and a great performance.
Yeah.
And again, I've been a Porch Cat fan ever since you popped up on my Facebook, or I saw you at a show in Bellingham or whatever it was. But again, thank you. Wait, did you finish your thought? I'm sorry. I have ADHD.
I actually just posted a video of that song from Punk with a Camera. That was with our most recent drummer, Caitlin. She's incredible. So I love watching that video just because I'm like, I miss these days. I wish we could have brought her with us when we moved, but unfortunately not.
Hey, do we want to give a shout out to all past members of Porch Cat?
Yeah, special shout out to Jordan for making us connect in the first place. I think Jordan went on our first tour with us, and it was really great. So shout out to Jordan. He's a good guy. And I think we've had our friend Naomi play with us when we were doing like really folky stuff. I love playing with Naomi. Her fiddle playing is great.
Oh yeah. For the longest time, I didn't know that the fiddle and the violin are the same thing. It's just
different genres.
Yeah. I was like, oh. I actually asked somebody, and he's like, actually, I think the fiddle's a little smaller and this and that. And I'm like, oh. And then I looked it up, and I'm like, no, they're the same thing.
Yeah. I think when I hear it described, I usually hear like fiddle is bluegrass. And violin is like classical.
Right.
So it's just a little bit of a kind of like a highbrow, lowbrow sort of difference in how you play. I would also just like to shout out Caitlin because we miss her, and we miss playing like sweaty basement shows with her.
Yeah.
Those were the best. I think those are the main people that have been involved in Porch Cat, and I'm blessed to be able to have recordings of these people being with us. So like if you want to hear Jordan's banjo playing, check out Crooked Soul. If you want to hear Naomi's fiddling, I would check out Ballad for Winter, I think, and Living Art. If you want fast punk song, go to our live album at the Firefly. That was a fun show. And sadly, we've never recorded like anything with Caitlin on drums.
Oh, okay.
But there are videos of us playing on YouTube, so yeah.
Well, all right. Well, again, thank you. Porch Cat, you can find them on all your streamers and on all the, you're on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of them.
I don't have Snapchat, but I'm on most everything.
Yeah, at Porch Cat.
At porchcat.music or .art, depending on where it is. But if you type in Porch Cat anywhere, it'll pop up.
Not with a K.
Not with a K.
But again, Chan, Porch Cat, Tri-Cities Mixtape welcomes you and thanks you for sharing your songs and your story with us today.
Can I also just say new album is coming out February 14th.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, so I'm really excited
We
to
have
do
a
that.
title or
It's called Not Invited.
is that indicative of the theme of the album?
Yeah, I
Is
think
it about being an outsider or?
Yeah, definitely. It's a combination of like feeling like an outsider, feeling like you're watching everything from above. Just kind of, I mean, the song itself, Not Invited, is about like dissociating and like that comes along with PTSD and things like that. So it's about isolation in its many forms, I think. And I always try to kind of like tie things together in a positive way. So I don't like having songs that are just like, I'm sad the whole time through and that's all you get.
Yeah.
I really value being able to say like, things are hard and shit's weird and like, that's okay for now. And you're not alone, you know? I don't want people who feel the same way as me to feel like they're alone. And I think Porch Cat as a project has taught me that personally, that I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to get like messages from people who have felt accepted or loved or seen. Yeah. I think that's what's really important to me with Porch Cat, is to just let people know that they're not alone and we're here and we're queer and we're proud. This next song is called The Naps. Thanks for tuning in to Tri-Cities Mixtape.
The particles make the mess. We're not far from hell, I can feel it. We'll be warm. Kid, I hope you understand this. We're part of an ongoing war. We've been playing shirts against skins. Our skin has made up the way that we live.
Hi, this is Porch Cat, and the next song you're going to hear is called Belong Here.
Took my head off in the sky. Don't know why I said goodbye. Lay down in the road to die. Don't know why I say goodbye. Ooh,
Now, I think me and you have a somewhat very similar journey. That it was around 5 or 6 years ago that we came back to the Tri-Cities. I grew up in Othello, which is not that different from here. It's just down the road. And came back about 6 years ago after living in Bellingham for like 7 years. And I was kind of preparing myself for a culture shock. Because it's super duper liberal over there. And I remember when I first went to Bellingham kind of being annoyed by it. Yeah. Because it seemed, like, funny enough, we were playing a show together, my band and your band, and you hadn't showed up yet, but me and somebody else in the band had misgendered you. And Abby Hagee, shout out to Abby Hagee from Cat Valley, great engineer. She was running sound at the Shakedown that night, and she corrected me because we referred to you as she. Yeah. And like she was in the middle of putting cables up, and she's like they, and I looked over at her and I'm like, what? She's like, they prefer to go by they, and that was the first time, I'm in my fucking 30s, you know, and not realizing like, oh, this is a whole thing, and people, and that was one of those learning moments to where even me and the people in the band, I started correcting them when they started saying, her, and we're referring to Chan from Porch Cat, and I'm like, it's they, and at first I was annoyed because it just seemed like, all this white guilt, super liberal bullshit that Bellingham is like built around, which is
for sure
still annoying. And I get it. I get, knowing the history of Bellingham, you understand it. You guys should be guilty. You guys should feel very guilty.
Yes, absolutely.
And luckily, the younger generations do recognize that and proceed accordingly. But when it was new to me, I resented it, or I didn't understand it, or I felt because I was being called out that I did something wrong. I was like, fuck you, Abby. Fuck Porch Cat. Fuck pronouns. But no, it took me really quick. Like, it's a very simple fucking thing to accommodate. And then, it took me a few times. But you literally were the first person that I had to teach myself to, respect your pronouns.
Yeah. I feel like I've had that experience with other people, too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think as long as people are trying, that's what's really important to me, is to just try and be willing to do it and change the way that you think about how you refer to someone.
Yeah. But no, I'm sure you never knew that. But that was a thing. I became, becoming somebody who resented it to quickly being, just like Abby, correcting my bandmates.
Yeah.
Stay. Activism. We got a few more Carly questions.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the... I think we already covered this. She's like, but Carly said she would love to know how you found each other and began the Porch Cat journey. We did cover that.
Yeah.
But, it's... Out of all these very well thought out questions, only one of hers matched one of my questions. She's the real journalist. Okay. Porch Cat has performed at several community-based events, whether fundraisers or community-building functions and the like. Do they reach out to these events, or are they invited? And how do you decide what events you'll be a part of? Damn, Carly, you got some good questions.
Yeah, that is a good question. Usually I reach out to other people for those events. I think especially when we first started playing around here, it was something that I sought out because I was like, I don't know, I don't want to just play dive bars.
Right.
And I love events that are there for social change, and doing Pride has been really, really impactful for me.
Oh yeah, y'all performed at Pride this last year.
Yeah, and we did, not the year before, but the one, so there was a little gap. Actually, no, I think we did last year and this year.
It was either last year or the year before. I remember saw you work in a booth and you're selling your stickers and your art and stuff.
Yeah, that was
maybe 2 years.
That was 2 years ago. I remember now.
That was the first Pride I took my kids to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
Oh, just actually, that lesbian garage rock band I had, our the first Crooked Neighbors gig, which was not the lesbian, but when I was in both those bands, was at the Mid-Columbia Pride here, where the Haplo stage is now. There was a makeshift stage here in Richland. And it was Crooked Neighbors' literal first one. It was just me, the singer, and the cellist. Yeah. Yeah, so it was them, and then my Liquor Cabinet was my other band. Okay. And that was, we played that Pride, but that was before they built the stage, and I think that was 2012 or some shit. It was a long time ago. But, so I've, the Mid-Columbia Pride Association, or is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think right now, it's Tri-Cities Pride.
Oh, okay.
I think.
This was 12 years ago.
Yeah. But I was kind of scared. I was like, how is Pride in the Tri-Cities going to go? Because that was the first time that I went to a Pride here. Yeah. And when I was in high school, I wasn't allowed to, even in middle school, I tried to start a GSA. And they were like, no, you can't do that here. And I was like, okay.
I'll just go be gay somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So in high school, one of our teachers started a club that was a club for outsiders, and that was her way of being like, this is this is our version of a GSA.
Right.
We're getting like through the loopholes. So that was really cool of her to do that for the students. But it was also just like disheartening to not be able to just be like, I'm going to gay club now, you know? And so now I'm like, it was very much a pleasant surprise to see how many people came out to Pride and how many people were just out there being proud. And it really made me feel like maybe the Tri-Cities can be a place for growth.
I had a similar thing. So when I came back a few years ago, I was totally like, it's just going to be a racist, dusty buttfuck of Tri-Cities. And for the most part, it was. But it wasn't until I started actually looking for it. Like in Tumbleweird magazine, I was like, oh, there is a scene in safe spaces. So I don't know. You can always, for me, I found, you can tell how good a community is or whatever by how represented, you know, the queers and the freaks and the weirdos are. Is there a space for them? Do they have something? And finding like Tumbleweird magazine and other things that like, okay, there is a counterculture here. There are, you know, there are drag shows. There are freaking, what was it? It was like queer karaoke. Carly was telling me about that they would do. I forget where. Maybe out and about. But you know, like things like that, and it is refreshing that okay, there are still people on the margins, but at least there are margins here. You know, that you can very easily think that, because it's so conservative and uneducated down here, that it's going to be, you know, I mean, not that it isn't, because oh my God. Okay, this is maybe just some of the stress that's been coming up lately around the election, and I might end up cutting this out. Okay. But I was in Costco the other day, and there was a woman wearing a Trump hat, and she had her like 10-year-old daughter wearing the exact same hat. And like there was just like a part of me, and I know this was like, it's fucked up, because I told my wife the story. She's like, dude. But I asked this woman and her kid, I'm like, and kind of referencing the kid, I'm like, hey, so are your parents first cousins or brother and sister? Oh. And the mom was like, what's that supposed to mean? I'm like, oh, because obviously you guys are inbred. Then I just turned around and walked away. And after a while, you know, and I was like, yeah, fuck you, take that, Trumpsters. And I told my wife, she's like, you said that to like an 11-year-old girl that you asked her if her parents are inbred? And she's like, that's fucked up. And I'm like, okay, maybe that is. I shouldn't, you know, even though, this girl, she's probably being indoctrinated. She's like, also, it was a school day and she wasn't at school. I'm like, what are you doing at Costco? Also, what am I doing yelling at people at Costco? Anyway, I'm probably going to cut this out. But just, the coming down here, I almost just expect it. Or I have a few pieces of merch that say protect trans kids. And I make it a point to wear it because, you know, my son tried to call me out. He's like, oh, it's performative or whatever. And I'm like, listen, son, it is. It's a show of support. Yeah. So yes, I want any trans kids or even these buttfuck conservatives to look at my shirt and, you know, and or, you know, maybe it'll start a conversation, or a kid will see the shirt and they'll say, hey, mom, what's a trans kid? And they'll either have to explain that or expose themselves to be a transphobe to their kids. Yeah. And I'm okay with those conversations happening.
I agree. I think you mentioned like having merch and stuff that says those things. I think that can be really impactful, even if someone just like sees your shirt and is like, huh, and then they go home and forget about it. Like even just that, I think, can make an impact on how people think, and just like be like, hey, you're right, kids deserve to be safe regardless of their gender.
Yeah. But also, I think maybe also people, I mean, because as far as I know, I think I present as straight male. Yeah. For the most part. I don't think anybody, not that like, hey, nobody's going to mistake me for a queer over here. No, like you know, sadly, I don't dress well enough or, you know, am cultured in the right ways to ever be mistaken for, you know, gay. Not that I care. But I do, for me, it does feel like, you know, it is saying something that, you know, I am, you know, and I don't, as far as I know so far, I don't have trans kids. Yeah. You know, it's a conversation I've had with them and letting them know, you know, you are who you are. Don't, if you don't even like the name I gave you, it's fine. You know, just think of a better one. But, or a cooler one. But yeah, just that idea of, especially around here, and I've gotten it so much that people will say, hey, I like your sweater, like, hey, I appreciate that, or, hey, that's right, yeah, they do need, I get in the Taco Bell parking lot the other day, or in the drive-thru, Taco Bell drive-thru, the dude's like, hey, I like your sweater, and I'm like, cool, can I get an extra burrito? No? Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that is the thing here, because I mean, obviously people around here aren't afraid to literally wave their flags for what they believe in, and yeah, just the whatever. Also, I work with old people, so I end up having to be around a lot of old folks, and I'm not afraid to have those conversations, and I'm not just gonna okay boomer and just yell at an old person. I do have a way of when they do ask me things, I can give them just logical general stuff that isn't political talking points or whatever, but that side has proven you can politicize anything. This is another tangent. I was at a dentist once, and I was just talking about how colors weren't gendered. How I told my kids you can like blue or yellow or pink, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then the dental assistant, she's like, well, yeah, I usually try not to get onto political topics and this and that. And I'm like, I'm talking about colors. Yeah. I'm talking about kids wearing a pink shirt. And it's not and she's like, let's not get political or whatever. And I'm like, how did you politicize the color pink?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen similar things. What was I going to say? Just the way that like a simple thing like colors can be politicized is wild to me. Yeah. Because they're just colors. And I remember one time somebody in my family was like, put like a flower crown filter on one of my nephews. And somebody in the family was like, oh, flowers aren't for boys. And I was like, flowers grow all over the earth. Like, they're for everyone. Why is that an issue? And it's like, I don't know. I like having the opportunity though to be able to be like, maybe you should rethink that a little bit and like.
Yeah, the gay panic is so infuriating, but also so funny.
Yeah.
Like my ex-wife, back when the song Royals came out. Oh yeah. My son, whatever, 6, 7, whatever, little kid, and he sang the line, I can be your queen bee, just it's a line in the song. And then like my ex-wife was like, hey, what do you don't say that, you're not a queen bee. I'm just like, are you serious? Are you freaking out? Because our son, quoted a lyric where said, I can be the queen bee. And I'm like, did you think Lord is going to turn our 6-year-old gay because of that lyric?
Yeah.
But just like the panic that she had was so like, again, infuriating, but also like ridiculous.
Yeah. I knew someone who, she was talking to my mom about how her son, who's like 4 maybe, wanted to try on her high heels. And she was just like, no, my son's going to be gay if I let him try on my shoes. Yeah. And it's like, no, I think kids at that age, they just like, they want to be like their parents. Yeah. And it's like a normal thing to just be like, oh, mom wears those shoes, so why can't I wear those shoes? Yeah. And it was just like kind of mind-blowing to me that someone was so concerned about it. Yeah. And I was like, your shoes aren't going to gayify your child.
Yeah. Well, just the idea that I had another client, which was actually, he was a young dude, but obviously he needed my help. I was taking care of him. But he was also like, he's like, man, I can't believe, they're putting the gay flags in the schools and turning the kids gay. And I'm like, he literally said it like that. So I'm like, dude, when you were in 8th grade, would having a rainbow flag in your classroom make you want to fuck dudes? And he's like, no. And I'm like, also, when you were in 8th grade, what teacher could make you even do your homework? Let alone make you gay, And again, this guy was like in his 20s maybe, and I was just like, how did you miss all this vital information that's out there?
that is something that I see a lot happening. That's just like, we can't have this in the classroom. I went to school for being a teacher, and I didn't like finish my teaching degree stuff, but there's a lot of like debates over what you can and can't have in a classroom, whether you should talk about being gay in front of your students, or like, should I hide this photo of me and my partner so that the kids don't see it, or whatever. It's like, I think those things are there so that we can connect with students who need it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's not relevant to you, then it's not relevant to you. You can just ignore it.
Right? Yeah, it seems like such a simple idea.